I knew something was off when no one met me at the gate. After 5 hours in the air, 2 through security, and another hour standing at baggage claim without a call or message, I finally opened the rideshare app and booked a car myself. The air in San Diego was heavy and wet, that coastal sticky sort of humidity. I clutched my purse, sat on the bench outside Terminal 2, watching the palms shake in the breeze, wondering if maybe they'd just lost track of time. They hadn't. They hadn't planned to come at all. The driver, a young woman with chipped turquoise nails, helped with my suitcase and asked, "Visiting family?" I gave a polite smile. "Yes, my son's wedding." She glanced at me in the mirror. "Big day. You must be so proud." I nodded smallly. I didn't quite know what I felt. Michael hadn't seen me in over 3 years. He called twice a year on my birthday and Christmas, both times sounding distracted, like he'd one foot out the door. When he said he'd get engaged to Rachel, he did it in a group email. No phone call, no personal word. Just a digital card with pastel fonts and a stock photo of palms. I told myself he was busy, that maybe I'd failed to keep up. Maybe he thought I wouldn't care. I did. More than he'd ever know. When the car pulled up to the address he'd sent, I blinked at the building. It wasn't his home. It was a hotel. A modest chain with free breakfast and that faint bleach smell in the beige carpets. At the desk, a young man checked me in without surprise. "Your son booked this for you. Just one night. Checkout is noon tomorrow." I signed slowly. Just one night. Upstairs, the room was neat and impersonal. A towel folded into a swan sat on the bed. I unpacked in silence. No note from Michael. No welcome basket. I pulled out my navy dress and hung it on the door. A simple sleeve dress suitable for a wedding or a funeral. I'd worn it once before to Charles's funeral. The dress didn't care about occasions. It just hung there and waited. I sat on the bed edge and stared at the muted TV. A cruise commercial looped. The sun sank behind the city. I checked my phone. Nothing. Around 7 I finally sent him a message myself. Landed safely at the hotel. Let me know if you need help tomorrow. No response. At 9:30 the room felt loud with silence. I made tea in the little machine, sipped slowly, and scrolled through old photos. Michael at 10 holding a baseball. Michael in his college robe. Michael with Rachel in a picture I'd never seen, her arms around him in a vineyard. She looked so effortless, the kind of woman who made you feel underdressed. The next morning I woke before dawn. Slivers of pale light creeped through the curtains. I showered, dressed, pinned up my gray hair, slipped on pearl earrings, a gift from my late husband Charles, and wore a soft pink scarf that had been his mother's. I looked in the mirror and saw someone trying not to hope. At 8:30 the phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Hi, this is Olivia from Coastal Bloom Events. Just checking in. You're Mrs. Holloway, correct? The mother of the groom?" "Yes," I replied. "Great. You're scheduled for table 17. Ceremony starts at 3. Venue address is in your email." "I haven't received anything," I said. Rustling paper, a pause. "Oh, looks like we sent the details to Rachel's parents' list. I'll forward it now. Sorry about that." "That's fine," I said. Table 17. Later at the venue, a bright all-white structure perched by the cliffs. The parking lot was already full. I walked slowly, careful in low heels. At the entrance a young woman with a clipboard smiled but didn't know my name. I said it twice before she nodded and pointed me toward the ceremony garden. Chairs lined up, ribbons flickering in the sea wind. Groups of people laughed and hugged. I looked for Michael. I didn't see him. Then I heard a voice announce, "Everyone, this is Susan. She used to be married to the groom's father." I turned. Rachel stood with a group of middle-aged guests, one manicured hand resting on a friend's arm. She said it lightly, almost affectionately, like she was introducing a family relic. I stared. I wasn't the groom's mother in their eyes. I was Charles's ex. That was who I'd been labeled. And Michael, standing just behind her, said nothing. I didn't react right away. Years of silence teach you to hesitate, to check your own temperature before you answer. I gave a small, neutral smile as if Susan had introduced me properly, as if I wasn't suddenly a stranger at my own son's wedding. The group murmured polite greetings. A man offered his hand. "Nice to meet you," he said. I shook ID. How could he know? Michael smoothed his cufflinks without looking back. I said calmly, "I'll be in the third row." Rachel smiled and turned away. Her dress caught the morning light. Sleek, tasteful, expensive. I walked slowly. My legs felt heavy with it all. Chairs filled, white petals lined the aisle. A woman in a headset guided me to a row near the back. "Reserved for extended family," she whispered. I looked at the card. My name wasn't there. Just guessed, table 17. I sat. The ceremony was lovely, too lovely truthfully, perfect in a way that leaves no room for memory. Vows recited like a script. Rachel's words sounded like a Pinterest board. Michael smiled, big, charming, sincere. He looked happy. Maybe he looked relieved. Not once did he glance my way. They kissed. The crowd applauded. I sit in the last row with my hands folded over my purse, waiting for my chance to fade. At the reception, a shuttle drove guests to the ballroom. I asked if I could ride with the family. The driver seemed puzzled. "Only immediate family on this one, ma'am." Of course, I waited for the next bus. When I got to the hall, a high-ceilinged room with crystal chandeliers, my name wasn't on the main chart. I found a coordinator who checked again. "Table 17, right by the kitchen," she said with a smile as if that made it better. I made my way through tables of gold cutlery and orchid centerpieces to find 7 strangers already seated at 17. A distant cousin of Rachel's, a co-worker of Michael's, a couple from Vancouver. I slid into the chair, a ghost in pearls. Across the room I saw Michael laughing with Rachel and her parents. He looked relaxed. I watched them toast. Then her father stood to speak about 2 families joining. Charles's name was mentioned. Mine was not. No photo request. No mention in the program. Even my title, Mother of the Groom, had been quietly erased. I sipped wine, nodded to the stranger beside me, and listened to a man talk about sailing. I pretended not to notice Michael's high school English teacher was closer to the dance floor than I was. Later, when dinner was served, I slipped away to the bathroom and stood before the mirror. I didn't cry. I placed my hands on the counter and let the weight sink into my spine. When I returned, dessert had been served. Someone had assumed I'd left and took my seat. I didn't ask for it back. I stood near a wall, like an usher without a list. The music began. Families danced. Special people were announced. Father of the bride, stepmother of the groom. I froze at that last title. Stepmother. Charles had been gone 10 years. His second wife, Eleanor, had married him late in life and been with him less than 5 years before his stroke. She'd never been close to Michael, rarely attended birthdays, and yet she slow danced with him in the center of the floor. I backed away and found the exit. The outside air was warm and buzzing. No one noticed I left until a voice called, "Mimi." I turned. Maya, my granddaughter from Michael's first marriage, stood there. She was 19 now, tall and sharp-eyed. A little awkward in her shoulders like I had been at that age. Her brown curls frizzed in the humidity. "I saw you leave," she said. "Are you okay?" I nodded. "It's too loud inside." She studied me. "They didn't put you at the family table?" "No," I said, pressing my lip. "Dad said." She stopped. "He's not always kind," she added softly. I looked at her, really looked. Her heels were too high. Her mascara ran from humidity or frustration. Yet her back was straight, as if she'd decided not to shrink. I took her hand. "Come," I said. "Let's walk." We wandered along a hedge-lined path behind the venue, string lights floating like low stars above us. The further we went, the softer the music became, replaced by leaves rustling and the distant murmur of the ocean. Maya didn't speak at first. She just held my hand, like when she was little and needed someone solid beside her. Finally, "Grandma," she said, "why didn't you say something?" "To who?" I asked gently. "To Dad, to Rachel, to everyone. Tell them you're his mother, that you helped pay for this wedding." I stopped walking. Part of me had hoped it was a mistake, that someone would correct it. But standing in the garden under the bulbs, I could no longer pretend. I didn't want to cause a scene. I said. I thought maybe I'd misunderstood. They won't fix it, Maya said flatly. Rachel's mother told people you'd let Eleanor attend in your place. I laughed, a sharp, hollow sound. I'd never said anything of the sort. I'd RSVP'd months ago, booked my flight, bought my dress, taken time off from the library, and still erased. Maya looked up. Do you want to leave? She asked. Every cell in me longed to go, but I wasn't ready to vanish. Not quietly. No, I said. I want to stay. I want them to see me. Maya squeezed my hand. I'll sit with you. We walked back inside. Just as we reached the patio, Rachel's voice sang out over the speakers, raising a toast. And to the incredible people who shaped Michael. His father, Charles, my parents, and of course my wonderful mother-in-law, Eleanor. Applause. My name was never spoken. Maya's hand shook in mine. We sat at table 17, where no one had even noticed we'd been gone. I pulled out my chair quietly. No one commented. As the next course, some elaborate reduction of something soft and bland, was brought out, Maya leaned close. Do you want me to say something? No, baby. You should. They need to be embarrassed. I smiled softly. They're not embarrassed, sweetheart. That's the problem. Across the room, Michael and Rachel were on the dance floor, faces glowing under the fairy lights. The perfect magazine couple. Curated, polished, beautiful. And I, the woman who brought him into this world, sat next to a man lecturing about cryptocurrency to an exhausted cousin from Iowa. Maya dug into her purse and slid something across, wrapped in a napkin. I brought you a piece of cake, the good one, the fancy almond with the real buttercream. I looked at her, startled. I knew they wouldn't bring any to table 17. The silence between you is stretched, not empty but full, the kind of silence only love can hold. I took the cake. Thank you, Maya. You're the only one who sends me birthday cards, who asks about my exams, who remembers how I take my tea. I see you, Grandma, she whispered. I met her eyes until my throat tightened. Then I looked away. Sometimes, life breaks not with a crash but with a clean tear, like a thread slipping free from cloth, never to be woven back the same. I sat through the rest of the night without expectation. No fantasy of Michael remembering me. No hope he'd pull me to the dance floor. Just the steady presence of a girl who still knew what love looked like. When the couple made their grand exit, jumping into their getaway car amid cheers, Maya and I remained seated. We didn't wave. We didn't clap. We just watched. When the crowd started to dissolve into coats and party favors, I stood, ordered a ride, and let Maya walk me to the car. Will you be okay? She asked. I nodded. I've been through worse. Call me tomorrow. I touched her cheek. That would be lovely. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. I looked forward, toward my hotel, my suitcase, and the life waiting in Portland. A life where I wasn't a mistake or an oversight or someone's anything. The hotel room was still when I returned, not a comforting quiet, just the kind that confirms you're alone. I kicked off my shoes and sat on the bed, hands in my lap, dress still buttoned to the neck. I hadn't spoken to Michael all day, not once. We hadn't even shared eye contact. It was as if he'd scripted the entire event to erase me. Never harsh, never obvious, just absent. I looked down at my hands. The simple silver ring Charles gave me in 1974 glinted under the lamp. I'd never replaced it, even after he died, even when Michael mocked me for being old-fashioned. Slowly, I slipped it off and placed it on the nightstand. Then the dress, back on the door like the night before. Only now I knew I'd never wear it again. Not for Michael. Not for anyone who couldn't say my name. I opened my tablet, logged into the wedding portal. There it was. My name buried in the billing system. Catering paid by me. Florals me. Photography deposit me. It had been my silent gift. I'd kept it anonymous to preserve dignity. Now I wondered if he'd known all along and simply chosen to ignore it. At the bottom, a final payment scheduled for tomorrow. The venue balance drawn from my account. The last bow from the woman shoved by the kitchen. My finger hovered over the coordinator's contact. Not yet. When I acted, IT would be clear. Final. Mine. Instead, I reached into my suitcase and pulled out a letter I'd written on the flight, addressed to Michael. It wasn't bitter or dramatic, just honest. A mother's quiet questions, decades of soft sorrow. I tore it in half, then again. Then the tears came. Not loud, not heaving. Just the quiet, slow tears of a woman who'd spent her life waiting for a son to come home. When I stopped, I made tea and drank it while staring out at the blinking lights of San Diego. The city seemed small. I slept without an alarm. Woke in the night reaching for Charles. Remembered he was gone 10 years now. And Michael gone too, just different. Morning brought a message from Maya. Morning, Grandma. Just checking on you. I meant what I said last night. I see you. Call me when you're ready. I held the phone to my chest. Those 28 words felt more like home than anything Michael had said in a decade. I opened my bank app. Enough to choose. Enough to change. Then I called my attorney. This is Miriam Holloway. I'd like to update my estate documents. Today. Mr. Moore met me in his office, stoic, calm, kind. What would you like to change? He asked. Everything. I slid a folder across. My house goes into a trust. Beneficiary. Remove Michael from my estate. Cancel the wedding payments if possible. He studied me. What prompted this? I was introduced yesterday as my late husband's ex-wife. Not his mother. Not the woman who paid for half that wedding. Just nothing. Is this about revenge? No. It's about dignity. He nodded, took notes. New will or amendment? New. Clean slate. Maya gets control at 25. Until then I manage it. She's the only one who sees me. Really sees me. That's rare. She's rare. An hour later IT was done. As I left, he asked, do you want your son to know? Eventually. But not yet. First I need to know who I am without him. Back at the hotel I packed. The dress was folded with respect, the pearls tucked back in their box. I checked out at noon. Did you enjoy your stay? The clerk asked. I smiled politely. IT was illuminating. Outside, the sun warmed my shoulders. My suitcase was small, worn, still scented with lavender sachets. A little battered, like me. At the airport I moved slowly, unaffected by the hurry around me. Couples, families, children. All moved like currents in a river I no longer needed to follow. For the first time in years I didn't feel less. On the plane I opened a notebook. I began writing. Not letters, not lists. Just truth. Things I'd never apologize for again. My age. My softness. My need to be seen. My right to change my mind. When I landed in Portland, the air felt heavier but honest. The porch light was still on. My gardenia bloomed stronger for my absence. Inside, I pulled out a folder marked Michael. Tuition receipts. Apartment deposits. Dental bills. Even Valentine's flowers I'd ordered for his first wife. Evidence that I'd always given. Evidence that love can't be bought. I fed the papers to the fireplace. Match to flame. Let the past consume itself. That night I slept soundly. Not from exhaustion but release. In the morning misty Portland rain greeted me. I tended the garden. Pulled weeds from the rosemary, tied up the tomatoes. My hands were steady. My heart was quiet. I didn't think about the wedding. Or Michael. I thought about Maya. Slipping cake into my hand like a peace offering in a war we never asked for. I decided I'd call her today. I wasn't in a hurry. By noon the hose was coiled, my gloves hung to dry, and a chicken was roasting in the oven. Not for company, just for me. Something that tasted like comfort. Then the phone rang. Not Maya. Michael. His name glowed on the screen like a challenge. I let it ring. Let voicemail take it. Then a text. Michael. Hey, I didn't see you at brunch today. You left already? Brunch. Of course there'd been a post-wedding brunch. For close family and friends. I typed 3 words, erased them. 5 more, erased again. Finally, I put the phone down without responding. He called again 2 hours later. I ignored it. This time he left a voicemail. I wanted to check in. Caitlin said you seemed quiet yesterday. Look, if something's wrong, can we talk? Let's not leave things weird. Weird. That was his word. Not cruel. Not humiliating. Weird. I didn't call back. I called Maya. Hey, Grandma. She answered, her voice bright but tired. Hi, darling. How's the headache? Gone now. Caitlin's mum was pouring Prosecco like water. Sounds about right. She paused. Are you okay? I am now. Been thinking about you all morning. Me too, she said quietly. Then hesitated. Dad asked if you were mad at him. I'm not mad. I'm done pretending. She didn't ask what I meant. You want me to come over? Not today. I'm roasting a chicken. For myself. For once. She laughed. Good. You deserve it. When we hung up, I set the phone face down. The scent of roasting chicken filled the room. Rich. Grounding. I didn't need table 17 or polite strangers. I needed this. A warm kitchen and the choice to belong to myself. The next days unfolded in a calm I hadn't known in years. I didn't check voicemails or refresh messages. I didn't wait for someone to remember me. I walked my neighborhood loop in the mornings, Carol still battling her roses, Mr. Wong sweeping his driveway. We traded pleasantries. Enough to feel visible. More texts came from Michael. Can we talk? I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'd like to explain. I let them sit. I wanted to see what he'd do with the silence. By week's end, a letter arrived. Printed. No return address. But his tone was clear. I'm sorry you felt excluded. That was never our intention. The wedding was chaotic, and if seating or introductions seemed off, it wasn't meant as a slight. Caitlin was under pressure. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Let's catch up soon. Love, Michael. That was it. Polite. Neutral. Void. Not once did he call me mother. Not one apology in his own voice. I folded it and slid it into the drawer where love used to live. Crayon notes, cards, drawings. It didn't belong, but I didn't know where else to put it. 2 days later, Maya called. Can I come this weekend? Just me. I told them I had work. You didn't need an excuse. I know. But it's easier. I understood. On Saturday, she arrived with tulips and 2 slices of pie. I know yours is better, but I didn't want to make you bake. I smiled. Then you've already done something they never did. We sat on the porch, pie on our knees, watching the sun slide across the fence. Maya looked like herself. No makeup, sweater too big, hair undone. Just her. I've been thinking, she said. About family. About Dad. About all of it. So have I. I used to think family was just what you're born into. Now I think it's what you choose to protect. And what protects you back. I nodded. Sometimes the ones you gave everything to forget you. And the ones you expected nothing from show up with pie. Her eyes filled. You gave up so much for them. I know. They don't deserve it. Maybe not. But it's not your job to fix it, sweetheart. Just keep your heart open, but never as a doormat. She laughed through tears. Grandma, you're kind of a badass. I'm old, I said. Same thing. Later, I showed her the trust papers. She tried to object. Are you sure? I'm sure. You're the only one who never made me feel like an obligation. She didn't speak after that. Just rested her head on my shoulder until the sky turned pink. When she left, her hug was stronger than ever. I love you, she said. I know, I whispered back. That's the only reason I'm still standing. Sunday morning brought rain and the ache in my hip. I lingered in bed. Then made tea and stepped onto the porch. Portland rain fell softly, as if even the clouds knew how to be gentle here. The phone rang, FaceTime. Michael. His smiling face next to Rachel's froze on the screen. I let it ring twice, then answered. Hey MOM, he said. Hello, Michael. He fidgeted. Just wanted to check in. I know things have been weird. I got your letter. Yeah. I figured it might not be enough. It wasn't. He looked away. I didn't realize Caitlin introduced you like that. As Dad's ex. She didn't mean. No. It just came out wrong. She was nervous. The day was stressful. So a mistake? Not exactly. I didn't think it mattered that much. You were there. You didn't think your mother's place in your life mattered? His mouth opened then closed. Michael, I said calmly, did you notice I was seated behind Caitlin's college roommate's cousins? He flinched. That wasn't intentional. I wasn't in the program. I wasn't introduced. You thanked your stepmother but not the woman who raised you. He rubbed his jaw. I know. I messed that up. I paid for your wedding. He stopped. I know. I didn't want you to. Remember? I told you not to make a big deal. So I didn't. I stayed invisible. And you let me. He shifted uneasy. Why, Michael? Why didn't you want me seen? He couldn't answer. I loved you through colic and fever, through heartbreaks and bad decisions. I held the door open every time. And still you walked past me like I was wallpaper. MOM. I'm not angry. I'm awake now. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix it. Start by saying my name. In public. Not as a footnote. Just say, this is my MO. He looked stunned. That would have been enough? Yes. He nodded, trying to memorize it. The screen shifted. Rachel appeared with a coffee mug. Is that your MOM? She asked brightly. Michael looked at me. Do you want to talk to her? No, I said gently. Maybe one day. Not today. I ended the call before he could add more. Not out of cruelty, out of choice. That afternoon, the doorbell rang. Rachel stood there in jeans and a trench coat, hair down, makeup minimal. A bakery box in hand. I hope this isn't a bad time, she said. I let her in. She set the box down. Lemon tart. Maya said it's your favorite. I stayed silent. You have a beautiful home, she said, eyes skimming the room. What did you want to say? I asked. She took a breath. I realized what I did. I tried to shrink you because you intimidated me. Not because you were harsh. Because you were elegant. Composed. Calm. And next to you I felt like a child. So I cut you down. I'm sorry. I nodded. Thank you. She looked surprised by the ease. I don't need to be adored, I said. But I expect to be seen. Especially by the woman marrying into my family. She nodded. I didn't see you. I saw what I was afraid of. That Michael might still need you more than me. He doesn't, I said. Hasn't he in years? That's part of motherhood. You teach them to walk away. But it doesn't erase who gave them legs. Her eyes softened. Would you ever try again with me? Not friends. Just, not strangers. I'll wait and see how you treat Maya first. That'll tell me what I need to know. Fair, she said. At the door she paused. I'm glad you answered his call. I didn't answer for him, I said. I answered for myself. When she left, I looked at the lemon tart. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Some gestures take time to taste. That night I ate a slice. It was good. Not better than mine. But good. The rest I put back in the fridge. I spent the evening reading about pruning. How some plants must be cut to the root to grow again. Not cruelty. Necessity. The tree doesn't mourn the branch. It just waits for spring. When I woke the next morning, Portland wore its gray sky like a soft shawl. I made coffee. No tea today. By 9 I was out front trimming the lavender. The bees moved slow, or maybe it was just me. My body felt heavy, but my mind sharper than it had in weeks. For the first time in a long while, I felt like myself again. Not a forgotten guest, but a woman who still had a place. The mail came late. Among the bills and catalogs, an envelope, handwritten, careful. Addressed to Mrs. Miriam Holloway. Inside a card. Cream paper, embossed edges. The handwriting was Maya's. Dear Grandma. I wanted to say this without tripping over the words on the phone. I've spent years feeling pulled between what I owe and what I want. But I've made a decision. I'm going to start saving to move out. Maybe to Portland. Maybe not right away, but soon. I want to build something real. Something that doesn't shrink me. And I want to do it with people who see me. Thank you for being my first mirror. Love, Maya. I sat with the card in my lap, my hand still covered in soil. I didn't cry. Not because I was holding it back, because peace doesn't need tears. Later I called my lawyer. I want to add something to the trust. I told Mr. Moore. If Maya wants to study, to move, to build anything, I want her to know she never needs permission. It's hers. Understood, he said, pen already scratching. And if she wants to start a business or a life with someone else, I want that protected too. You're very thorough, Mrs. Holloway. I've lived long enough to know the difference between freedom and inheritance. He chuckled. I'll write it up. When the call ended, I looked around my kitchen. Same white cabinets, same chipped mug, same humming fridge. But it felt different. Like a new house where choices belonged to me. Where silence was peace, not punishment. That afternoon I baked. Not to impress. Not to soften an apology. Just for me. An almond cake, Julian's favorite. Rich, golden at the edges. I let it cool, cut a piece, and sat on the porch with black coffee. I thought about Maya. About being someone's first mirror. Not the smartest or the most successful, or the loudest at a wedding. Just the one who reflected her back to herself. I didn't hear from Michael for 2 weeks. No calls. No messages. Not even a photo from the wedding. And I didn't miss it. Instead I lived small simple choices. Tea with Carol on Tuesday. Repotted the fern. Donated coats I hadn't touched in years. I even found an old notebook in the closet, where I once started a cookbook. Page by page, it felt like opening a time capsule sealed by distraction. I wasn't rebuilding. I was rediscovering. Then on another Tuesday a package came. Small. No return address. Inside a wedding album. Leather-bound, gold-embossed. Rachel and Michael. July 19th, San Diego. I ran my fingers over the letters, hesitating. Then I opened it. Page after page of white dresses, champagne, coordinated family photos. Michael smiling like the boy I once knew, just taller, more guarded. Eleanor in the front row. Rachel with her family, all perfectly poised. No pictures of me. Not one. Not at the ceremony, not at the reception, not even in the background at table 17. It was like I had never existed. And for a moment I almost believed it. Until the last page. Maya. In her oversized sweater, curls frizzy, holding a slice of almond cake. A candid. Not posed, not curated. She wasn't looking at the camera. Maybe she was looking at me. Maybe not. But she looked real. I closed the book. No sting this time. Because for all their curation, the only honest photo was the one they didn't mean to keep. I didn't throw the album out. Didn't return it. I slid it next to Julian's cookbooks. Not as a keepsake. As a record. Evidence of how far people will go to erase a truth. That evening I called Maya. Hey Grandma. Hi darling. I got a delivery today. The album. Her voice dropped. Yes. I didn't know they were sending it. I'd have warned you. I'm glad they didn't. Really. It reminded me that being erased doesn't mean you disappear. It just means you don't fit someone else's version of events. Do you want to talk about it? No, I said gently. I just wanted to hear your voice. And to say thank you. For what? For being in the photo that mattered. She went quiet. Then, you were in mine too. My favorite one. I took it on my phone. It's just your hand holding mine. I smiled. Send it sometime. I will. After we hung up, I watched the sun slip behind the rooftops. It used to make me restless a clear day. Now it just made me still. I didn't need every seat. Or every speech. I just needed my own voice. And the pen when someone else tried to write my part. Friday brought rain. Not the gentle Portland kind. A downpour, heavy, relentless. I stayed indoors, moving between small tasks. Cleaned the spice drawer. Oiled the front door hinges. Sorted photos, keeping only the ones that made me breathe easy. I pulled down a box marked Christmas. Inside ornaments, most chipped, some handmade. At the bottom a card. Red construction paper. Glitter. Michael's handwriting, age 7. To Mom, you make the house smell like good things. I love you even when you're mad. A drawing of me, supposedly in an apron, though I looked more like a firefighter with a cake. I smiled. Not tears. Just recognition. I taped it to the fridge. Evidence of who I was. Who he once saw. That evening a knock. Unexpected. I opened the door. Michael. Rain-damp navy coat. A grocery bag in his hand. Hi, he said. I didn't move. Can I come in for a second? I hesitated, then stepped aside. He walked in like the room might be different. He set the bag on the counter. Almond paste, he said. And flour. Eggs. I wanted to learn. The cake. Maya said you still make it. For myself, I said. You didn't share? It wasn't for sharing. He nodded. I deserved that. His eyes caught the card on the fridge. You kept that. His voice lowered. 35 years. He rubbed his hands. I was a selfish kid. You were a child. Then you became a selfish man. He flinched. Didn't argue. Do you want to make the cake? I asked. Or apologize? Both, he said. If you'll let me. I searched his face for performance. Found none. Just a man with wet sleeves and a bag of flour trying. Wash your hands, I said. He did. We stood side by side, measuring, mixing. When I cracked the eggs, he winced. I never learned to do that. You never tried. I thought you liked doing everything. I liked it when someone noticed. He nodded. We worked in mostly silence. I didn't feel heavy. Just honest. When the cake baked, we sat with tea. I know what I did, he said. Not just the wedding. Years of it. I kept shrinking you so I could feel bigger. I thought if I pushed you back, no one would see how much I still needed you. I let him speak. I'm not proud, he added. You shouldn't be. He nodded. I wish I'd done better. So do I. But I want to start. Slowly. On your terms. The oven dinged. I pulled the cake out. Sweet warm almond in the air. We cut 2 slices. Halfway through his, he said, this tastes like Christmas. It always did. We sat together. Not quite mother and son again. Not strangers either. Something in between. Something true. The next morning, I woke to a clean kitchen, the scent of almond still hanging. Michael had left late, but without asking for anything. Just a quiet thank you. And a promise. I'll call before I come next time. It wasn't much. But it was something. I made tea and stood at the window, watching the light move across the fence. A quiet day stretched ahead, my favorite kind. The phone rang. Morning, Maya said. I heard he came. News travels fast. I made him call me after. Wanted to make sure he didn't say anything stupid. He didn't, I said. Which is historic. She laughed. He sounded different. Smaller. That's what honesty does. Did it feel real? I'm not sure. But he brought almond paste. That has to count for something. She told me about her job, her landlord's leak, the boots she was saving for. She sounded lighter too, like the weight of sides had lifted. After we hung up, I dressed in real clothes. Slacks. Sweater. Earrings I hadn't touched in years. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to look like someone with plans. I drove to the hardware store. Bought a handle for the drawer that had been loose since 2016. A new plant for the hallway. Walked the aisles, brushing my hands over polished steel and ceramic. Because it mattered. Because I mattered. Back home, I passed the bookshelf. The wedding album still sat there. Untouched. Waiting. I took the album from the shelf and flipped back to the last page. Maya, caught in her own light, holding that slice of almond cake like it was more than dessert, like it was a piece of herself. I slipped the photo from its sleeve, placed it into a frame, and set it on the mantel. The rest of the album, all those polished strangers and perfect smiles, I closed quietly and left where it was. That night, I roasted a chicken again. Just for me. I set the table with a cloth napkin, a glass of wine, and no apology. Halfway through dinner, a message came. Michael. Would you be okay if Rachel came next time? Only if you're ready. I didn't answer. Not yet. I finished eating, cleared the table, folded the napkin, washed and dried the fork. Only then did I text back. She may come. If she understands she isn't here to defend herself. His reply came quick. Understood. I'll make sure she does. And just like that, the ground shifted again. Not broken, not fixed. Just different. Before bed, I lit a single candle on the windowsill. Julian used to do that during outages. I always thought it was for light. But maybe it was a signal. A reminder that even in the dark, someone was still here, holding a flame. I let it burn until I fell asleep. They came on a Sunday. Not early. Late enough for me to have read the paper. Swept the porch, drunk 2 cups of tea. I wore my green sweater with the frayed sleeves. The one that made me feel like I belonged in my own house. When the bell rang, I didn't rush. Michael stood on the porch, and immediately stepped aside so Rachel could be seen. She held a small bouquet of wildflowers tied with twine. Good morning, she said, softer than I remembered. Come in, I said. Shoes off. They obeyed. We sat in the living room, the two of them on the couch, hands close but not touching, me in my chair. The room felt smaller with all 3 of us in it. The silence wasn't hostile, just careful. Like animals testing the air after a storm. Rachel spoke first. I didn't come to explain away what happened. I came to acknowledge it. I erased you. I didn't flinch. I don't have an excuse. I wanted control of the story, the image, of everything. In trying to hold it all, I became someone I swore I'd never be. Someone who treats love like a prop? I asked. Yes, she said without hesitation. I thought if I made you smaller, it would make us look bigger. But it only made me small. I let her words hang. You brought flowers, I said. From my mother's garden, she admitted. She doesn't know I took them. I smiled. Good. That's a start. We sat in the quiet until she added. I baked lemon tart again. Still too sweet. Add salt to the crust, I said. Balance is everything. She nodded, relieved we were speaking the same language at last. I don't expect us to be close, she said. But I want the chance to be known as myself, not just as the woman who stood between a mother and her son. I turned to Michael. And you? Do you feel the same? Yes, he said. No conditions. Just time. And truth. Truth, I repeated. That costs more than most people realize. I know, he said. I'm ready to pay. No hugs. No dramatic music. Just the clock ticking and the lavender candle I'd lit earlier. I rose. Tea. They both nodded. I boiled water, prepared 3 cups, black, honey, lemon. I remembered their preferences. Not because they'd earned it. Because I had. When I brought the tray, we sipped quietly until Rachel reached into her bag. I printed this for you. She held out a frame, the photo of Maya with her cake, wind in her hair. Thank you, I said. She told me it was the most real moment of the wedding, Rachel said. She was right. Michael finally looked at me. I'm sorry it took so long. It always takes longer than it should, I said. But better late than never. We didn't fix everything that afternoon. Not even close. But they left quietly, respectfully. And when the door closed, I stood in the hallway, breathed deep, then cut myself a slice of almond cake, and wrapped another in foil just in case. 2 months have passed since San Diego. Since I sat at the back and watched my name disappear from my own son's story. 2 months since I came home and remembered who I am. Not someone's guest or mistake. Whole. Now I tend things, not people. My tomatoes are thriving. I planted thyme near the gate. I've started writing again. Recipes, notes, a history that doesn't need applause. Michael calls once a week. He's trying. I don't reward or punish. I answer when I feel like it. That's new for me. Rachel sent a book of essays. A sticky note on the cover. Page 147 made me think of you. An essay on apology. A real one. I kept the note. Not because I forgive her, but because I see her trying. Maya visits often. She's looking for jobs, talking about moving out, building her own name. I told her that's all any of us ever do. Some just start later. I asked her to write it all down. Not for me, for her. So she can remember. I revised my will again. Everything still goes to Maya. But I tucked a letter behind the document. You don't owe anyone your silence. Not even the ones who gave you life. Especially not them if they ask you to give up yours in exchange. Maybe someday she'll read it. And nod. Not with sadness, with understanding. As for me, I still walk to the bakery on Fridays. Sweep the porch, freeze half my soup for no one in particular. I don't need to find meaning in every gesture. I just live. But when I bake almond cake, I always cut an extra slice. I wrap it in foil. Leave it on the counter. Just in case someone comes by. Someone who finally learned how to knock. And if you've read this far, if this story felt too close to your own, hear me clearly. You don't have to stay where you aren't seen. You're allowed to choose yourself, even if it's late. If you're holding something, pain, pride, a recipe no one thanked you for, write it down. Say it. To someone or to yourself. But don't let it disappear. Because you were here. And you mattered. If this story found you, let it rest here. If it moved you, pass it on to someone who needs it too. And if it was you, say something. We hear you. We really do.